Welcome back to another episode of The Hardcore Casual with your boy, Bass the Kid. As always, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, a colleague, a relative, an immediate family member, an associate, an enemy, anyone in between. I don't mind. This one's going to be a bit of a news mashup. There's several things that have happened over the last couple of days, which are all worth talking about. So I guess, without further ado, let's just get into what's been going on in the sport of boxing. So, yesterday it was announced by Eddie Hearn at the AJ press conference that Shannon Ryan, Jack Catterall and Sonny Edwards had now joined the Matchroom stable. Shannon, obviously very, very talented flyweight, super flyweight contender at the moment, prospect, 4-0. Had 4 good fights last year under the Boxer banner. Was supposed to have a 5th one, but that didn't quite pan out just due to the movement of the all-women's card that took place. Funny enough, I actually saw her towards the back end of the show, and I was actually just asking her about, like news, fight news and that, because obviously people will know that I did an interview with her on the Undefeated channel for my breakdown show about a month ago now, month and a half, and she was like, oh yeah, June 10th. So, and I initially said, oh, so you're gonna be on the Adam Azim card, the one at York Hall. And she's like, didn't you see? And I'm like, well, I got here at 1, like, see what? She goes, oh no, I've signed to Matchroom now. I was like, oh, okay. And at that point, it sort of went back to a conversation, that part of the conversation I had during the interview, when I was asking her about sort of plans and levels of activity, if she was happy with certain things. I had an inkling that maybe things would change at some point. I just wasn't really sure in what capacity. Now, I won't necessarily go into the conversation we had after that, because I don't know if that's for me to mention. But yeah, it seems like she's in capable hands right now, so I definitely just want to give her, sort of a big ups to her, and I'm sure that she, will have felt like she's made the right move, kind of moving forward. In terms of Jack Catterall, I mean, he needs someone to do something for him at this point. I mean, he's done everything the hard way since the start of his career, small hall shows, all of that, but he's got a loyal following behind him, and ultimately he's still got enough goodwill from the very bad decision that took place back in 2021. So wait, was it 20? No, sorry, 22. My apologies. Yeah, boy, it feels so long ago now. But yeah, so with regards to that, it's like he desperately needs to just get back in the ring, and at least now he will be in a position where there's a lot of 140 fighters at Matchroom, and if things go to how I see them going, they'll probably bite the bullet and make a play to sign Regis Prograis as well, to at least get one of those belts on the on that side of the street, if we're going to use that terminology. So yeah, we'll see what happens there. Also, again, IBF flyweight champion Sonny Edwards has just joined the team. I mean, to be honest, it's weird how it took that long, if you consider that you've got one of the other champs, you have someone vying for another title. Maybe it would have been a point of trying to freeze him out to a degree, but it's probably better to have every single champion in-house, or as many of them as possible, than it is to just try and have one on the outside looking in, because ultimately you can make the unifications, you can do round robins, and if someone loses a belt, then most of the time it's going to be lost to someone within your stable, so you can still kind of keep the rotations in-house. And at those lower weights, Matchroom definitely know what they're doing with those divisions, so definitely a good move. And as I've always said, I rate Sonny Edwards' IQ as top 5 in the world, and I stand on that in terms of like boxing IQ in the ring. That might get me in trouble for some people who don't think that much of him in terms of his boxing IQ and his boxing brain. But yeah, if he had more power than he does have, he would be like a devastating, like he would probably be on the pound for pound list in my opinion, because there would be a lot more within his stable to kind of support that argument. But yeah, like I said, in terms of the actual IQ, there's not very many better than him. So it's a good acquisition, and hopefully now he can get that unification with Martinez. And I think part of the reason Eddie has signed him is because I don't think he's got much more faith left in Martinez. Constantly pulling out of fights, not necessarily keeping the weight correctly. He's always got something going on. I just think he's like, you know what, let me do this unification. I think Sonny can beat him. I can get that belt off of him. He ain't got to be my problem anymore. And then I can use Sonny, who I know is always going to be professional in terms of making a weight. He's not going to be too hard to deal with in terms of money. Yeah, these are the kind of things that I see in the process of this acquisition being made. But yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward. But overall, 3 good signings, and I'm interested to see who the next ones will be. So Bob Arum done an interview with Steve Kim not too long ago. It was a couple of days back now. And I haven't heard the entire thing, but I've heard some of the sound bites. And 2 of them in particular were fairly interesting. So one of them is that David Benavidez versus Caleb Plant did less than 100,000 pay-per-view buyers in the US. I also saw another report basically saying it was about 49,000 like pay-per-view buyers in terms of TV platform, but then maybe about another 98,000 on streaming. So basically just under 150,000 altogether. Now that in itself is not a great look, purely because if you're necessarily campaigning for the the Canelo Alvarez fight, I mean, you can't put a case forward to now say, oh well, like all the people want to see me versus you, because the people ain't coming in to see you versus anyone else. So even down to negotiations before any potential purse bids or mandatories get called, like you're not really in a great position in that one. So I guess it's actually a good thing he's got the David Morrell fight already signed and lined up to go in the summer. Hopefully that one won't be on pay-per-view, because then if you get more eyes on your product, and if you do a good job in that one, and then the next fight again, I think it's supposed to be Andrade or Charlo will supposed to be the 3rd fight of that particular deal that he signed. Again, if you don't put it on pay-per-view and you get all the eyes on there, if you have 3 very solid, very good wins under your belt, then that raises your market value, raises your stock for when that Canelo Alvarez fight does eventually get called. That's how I see it. But yeah, the numbers, I mean, I wasn't expecting great numbers, but I was thinking maybe sort of like 175 to 200. So yeah, if anything kind of less than that sounds a little bad, especially after a rivalry that's been built up for 5 years and it does like 100,000 or 140,000. It's not great. That being said, he also said that the purse that Alexander Usyk basically lost from the Saudi deal was in the region of $60 million, and that he was going to make about 20 million from going to Wembley. So on one hand, you could say this puts more fuel to the fire that like Tyson Fury is whatever he is. But then it also now does lead further credence to people who would suggest, well, okay, Usyk, yes, he wanted the fight, but he was more willing to not take the fight now, because essentially he's fighting for 1/3 of the money he was supposed to be fighting for. And that's kind of what Krasiuk said the other day, is that, well, his highest payday is actually like 3 times what he would have been offered to fight at Wembley on April the 29th. Well, according to what Bob Arum says, that's correct. Yeah, he was offered 60. Now, if we're talking a potential 50-50 deal, that ultimately means that Tyson Fury turned down a minimum of 60 million. And Amir Abdullah was on he was on Talk Sport yesterday. He's also done I saw he done a very big interview with October Red. I haven't watched it yet, but I definitely will be watching that today. I don't know if she got any more nuggets out of him, because she's quite good at that, so I'm going to check it out. But he said basically there, one fighter wanted more money than the fight could generate for both guys. Now, look, again, Usyk has done his deal with the UAE, Saudi Arabia previously, no issues. From all intents and purposes, the deal was agreed again on his side, which therefore tells you there's only one person that scuppered that initial point. So now, Bob Arum has said, well, they said that now the next time they will be able to sort of put something on is around sort of November, December time. Now, okay, that could potentially be truthful, because if you're looking at sort of June, July, August, that's not the greatest times to put something on over there. If we remember the Anthony Joshua and Usyk 2 fight, or I should say Usyk Joshua 2, there were several times in several fights where fights had to be stopped. The ring had to kind of be wiped up. They didn't have the right surface down. Like, people were just sort of dripping sweat left, right, and center. So even the aircon within the arena probably wasn't at the level they needed it to be. So you might say, well, to circumvent that and having to build a different type of stadium, or put in maybe a roof on the stadium, or just more of an infrastructure into it, which is obviously going to cost them a lot more money than maybe they want, especially when you factor in the amount of money that they're going to be paying on top to the fighters and all the guests to come in and whatnot. Maybe it makes more sense to do it later on in the year when things are a bit cooler. You can have an open air stadium a bit more. Maybe just save some cost that way, and you can do it, you can build it quicker, collapse it quicker if you need to. So potentially that could be the case. So what I kind of see, what I'd like to kind of happen now, if I'm honest, and this is just my personal opinion, so I'd like Usyk to fight Hrgović. I don't think Daniel Dubois is gonna be ready. They say he's 100% fit, but at the end of the day, it was an ACL tear/rupture. Those do not get you, they don't recover in 6 months, and when they do, it's only for basic functionality. It's not for turning, like running, like jumping, and it's not that type of, it takes a long time to really get those firing and get those working. And ultimately, as Klimas and Krasiuk have said, they don't want to be in a situation where they go into the training camp and then 2 months into it, Daniel Dubois, he collapses due to injury, and now they're back at square one. So I see Hrgović being the next fight for them. On the other side, I would actually like Tyson Fury to fight Joe Joyce, only because if he fights Joe Joyce, then Joe Joyce no longer is the WBO mandatory for Alexander Usyk. So then, regardless of who wins or who loses that fight, that's a mandatory that's gone. The WBO will then have to do an eliminator for a new one, and that will push that back. The WBA will then have to ultimately wait, or they will have to make, I guess, the number 1 v number 2 in the division for the WBA regular, which may be like Dubois, Bacoli, maybe Michael Hunter can make his case to get back to that number 1 spot. He was taken out due to inactivity, which obviously wasn't his fault. That was due to 2 separate pullouts from Hughie Fury. So whatever would happen there, that would push that one back, which would therefore mean there's no mandatories that need to be called at any time within the next 8 to 12 months. So you can then try and go back to those negotiations, maybe now with the Saudi money in place, do it there. Someone will have to talk to Tyson Fury, tell him to get off his high horse about what he's demanding. Usyk will get what he wants. They won't have to have a rematch clause in there. They can have a one and done, as Tyson Fury said, winner take all. And yeah, and if that's the case, if you then start hearing about rematches and stuff afterwards, you know who it came from. Because since Tyson said, well, let's take out the rematch clause, winner take all, if we get one that ends up back in there, if it's in Saudi, it definitely won't have come from U16. So let's see what happens there. But ultimately, I feel as if that makes the most sense. And yeah, we'll see what happens. But Bob Arum is always good for kind of giving you the information that maybe someone like Frank Warren doesn't want to. But yeah, we'll see what happens moving forward on that one. I guess lastly, I'll end on this one. So John Fury has basically come out and said that Sugar Hill is almost basically betrayed Tyson Fury, and is like he's led him almost like Judas to Jesus, etc. When he basically came out and revealed, well, he wasn't here to train Tyson Fury. He hasn't been training Tyson Fury, and as far as he was concerned, he was here for Lawrence Okoli. There was no fight signed, there was no agreement. He's only in training camp when things are agreed, and outside of that. So I heard some stuff about there were some people who were in the camp that were southpaws, so he was doing some light work, whatever, but he just didn't have a trainer. And John Fury has basically said that that's a sackable offense. Now, if I'm gonna be totally honest, right, I agree with him. Shock horror. I do agree that, look, when you have a team, like, you need to know that your team is like, they're there, they back you 100%, whatever, whether you're right or wrong, obviously kind of challenge you in private, back you in public to a certain degree. And so if that's the case, I would now probably concede that Sugar Hill's position within the team is a bit more untenable, and probably you can't really go back. That being said, though, I also stand by someone who's not willing to go with a charade based on lies, essentially. So I feel that what Sugar Hill's done is said, no, like, don't use my name for your lies and fabrication. Like, whatever you lot was doing, whatever the reason this fight didn't take place, like, don't make it about me, because it's saying, oh well, yeah, but his trainer's here, like, you've seen him with his trainer, they've been trained. Like, no, like, because then that calls my integrity into question when things fall apart. Ultimately, things fell apart. So in that sense, he's like, well, no, like, ultimately, whatever's going on between you lot, like, leave my name out of it. I ain't involved in this. And realistically, he's probably looking at it from a perspective of, all right, cool, Tyson Fury is he's the main man in the division now, but he can retire tomorrow. My life, my legacy needs to carry on outside of him. I've got other fighters that I'm working with, so I just need to basically deal with these guys that I know are gonna be here for a certain period of time. Now, potentially, it could also be the reason he maybe has said that is down to money. A lot of the time, a trainer will have a percentage that they get given, sometimes like 10%, sometimes 15%, in and around there. Now, the bigger a person gets as a fighter, the more money they make, they start resenting the amount of money that they then have to, pay to a trainer. So, like, imagine 10% of 100,000. It's not that bad. It's £10,000 out of your check, all right. But then 10% of $1 million, okay, 100,000. Get the drift. So imagine now you are making 60 million. Are you really gonna give 6 million to your trainer, that 10%, or would you rather agree a flat fee? Now, a lot of trainers, especially the ones that come up with someone from the mud, they're like, well, hold on, I want my 10%. But the fighters looking at it, like, well, nah, this is a lot of money. Like, I can't just be giving you that. Can't we just agree that, look, you take 600,000 and that's your cut? But it's like, well, no, but that's 1% of what I should have. Like, I've been here or I'm the one that got you to a certain position, and now you kind of want to cut me out. So that happens on time as well. So no, not saying that that's something that happened within this particular fight itself or the previous fights, but sometimes those are things that factor into it. So then the trainer's like, well, no, I'm not necessarily going to just, you know, be on your side and like ride the, you know, I guess ride this rail till the wheels fall off, till it comes off the tracks, when, you know, maybe you're moving a bit different to me than how you was moving before. Who knows? But look, long and short of it, without giving all the different scenarios, I agree with John Fury that realistically, if he's not gonna back you and sort of, you know, or at least not say anything at all, then he's got to go. But on the other hand, I definitely do agree and respect with Sugar Hill being like, well, no, I'm my own man. Like, don't bring me into your mix-up because I'm not involved in it. So, yeah, that's my kind of take on it. Anyway, I've got a few things to do before I head down to the O2 later on today. If you see me, say what's up. I'll say what's up as well. But thank you for watching. And for now, it's Hardcore Casual out.